Is there a chilling crackdown on free expression now happening in the land of the free? Let's talk to Mary Trump, the author, psychologist, and also the president's niece and one of his eloquent critics. Mary Trump, thank you very much indeed for joining us. What happened to Charlie Kirk was hideous and awful, and everybody condemns it. But are you concerned that there is, in a sense, an overreaction from the right of American politics and the group around the president?
Yes. First of all, thank you for having me. It's great to see you again. I'm deeply concerned. The ways in which the right have reacted so quickly and so thoroughly in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's horrific murder is having a chilling effect on not just prominent people like Jimmy Kimmel, but everyday citizens who are being punished through suspension or firing simply for expressing their views on their private social media accounts. And we're at this point where it seems that people at the upper echelons of the Trump regime don't even understand how speech is protected in this country. Hate speech is protected speech, first of all. There are limits to that, but generally speaking, we have very, very broad protections on speech here. So the other problem, though, is the ways in which their version of hate speech is being characterized. They're characterizing it as speech they don't like, speech they find offensive or critical of them, which is not at all the way it's supposed to work. And Andrew, one of the most concerning things here is the hypocrisy, because quite frankly, it is very often the right that engages in hate speech, that targets individuals based on their race, ethnicity, or sexual orientation, et cetera. So the question then becomes, who is going to stop this? And we see a wholesale capitulation by corporate media here, basically bending the knee to Donald's very carefully constructed FCC. So yes, I'm deeply alarmed. Deeply alarmed.
I'm interested in the similarities between American law and Constitution and our common law, because here, basically, free speech is protected. You can be offensive, you can be rude, you can be obnoxious, you can be what you like. You can really hurt other people verbally until you get up to the point where you are likely to incite imminent violence or public disorder. That's the kind of barrier. Is it more or less the same in the States? And if it is, do you think the Republicans understand that?
That's exactly right. Targeted harassment that could potentially lead to violence. That is not protected speech. It's very specific, and I think it's pretty much the same here as it is over there. Do the Republicans understand this? I believe most of them do, and they're exploiting Americans' ignorance around these things with their hyperbole and, again, their very swift, unified action against anybody who just said anything at all about Charlie Kirk that was the slightest bit negative, or in some cases, people who were simply quoting Charlie Kirk's own words to put his role in the creation of our current political climate in context.
That's so interesting. Thinking about the way that the media operates, you were mentioning earlier on, sometimes you might say it's not the emperor who's at fault, it's all those who bend the knee to the emperor. If what we're seeing in your country is the republic giving way to the new empire, do you think the media moguls, that the owners and controllers of the big media companies, are complicit in what's happening?
I think they're very complicit, and the question remains, is it that they are operating in their short-term economic interest, or are they playing a long game in which they're betting that the Trump regime and whatever follows it will be the new norm, and they want to make sure that they position themselves to continue to profit off of that? So what we're seeing, and we've seen this for a long time here, but it's getting worse in a very short period of time, is people at the head of corporate media organizations essentially betting that democracy is not the way of the future. It is not the thing that is going to enrich them. In the meantime, they will do Donald Trump's bidding so that they can get their $6 billion mergers pushed through the FCC. And that is not a good place. That is not a healthy democracy by any stretch of the imagination.
And finally, a thought about my country. We've just seen today what I call the unlikely couple, Starmer and Trump treating each other as, very, very close friends, and an enormous amount of mutual flattery going on there. How do you think that Trump really regards Starmer, whose poll numbers are going down? Is this just a piece of sort of benign propaganda which disguises the real relationship?
Well, I think in some ways it's a flex for Donald because he knows that Starmer is essentially kissing his ring for reasons I don't begin to understand, but that's a conversation perhaps for another time. And Donald has no use for or admiration for anybody who wants to exist within the framework of Western liberal democracy. In fact, Donald is doing his utmost to weaken the post-World War II order. So for me, for Starmer or any other leader of an EU country, I know Europe's not in the EU, but to genuflect in this way to Donald, knowing the harm he is causing, sort of mirrors what's happening in the United States of America.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching very carefully the two of them on the stage together. And when Keir Starmer was saying something particularly flattering or benign about Donald Trump and America, your president, your uncle has, if I may say so, kind of slightly alligator or crocodile eyes, which suddenly snap over. And you think, this man is not fooled for a second. This man knows exactly what's going on, and we shouldn't take his expressions of effusive thanks seriously.
Absolutely not. And it is just another instance in which appeasement is a slippery slope of its own. How much farther is this going to go? And at what point are people going to realize that continuing to give in is not going to make this end well at all?
Final thought, was the killing of Charlie Kirk a really important kind of inflection moment in the great political and cultural war going on in the United States? Do you see this as a truly dangerous moment for the liberal side of the argument?
Yeah, it should not have been. It was a hideous, as you said, it was a hideous act of murder, cold-blooded murder. Everybody I'm aware of on the left has condemned it. There have been outliers, and that's despicable. But this was an unacceptable act of political violence against a prominent figure, regardless of what you think of him or his role in the creation of our current, quite frankly, dangerous political climate. And it should be condemned. The problem is that the right is exploiting Charlie Kirk's murder towards its own ends. This could have been a unifying moment. This could have been a moment of exploration into trying to figure out how we got to this dangerous point. Instead, it is indeed an inflection point, and there are dangers that will lie ahead because of it.
Amen to that. Mary Trump, thank you very much indeed for talking to LBC. It's been a pleasure.